Okay, should be sharing
All right.
screen now.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. This is Mautic, and welcome to Mautic Lagos. So briefly, I will be explaining to us about Mautic. We get to the next slide.
Yeah.
All right, great. So you may be asking, what is Mautic? So briefly, I will try to tell us what Mautic is all about. Mautic is an open source marketing automation that allows you to, next slide, please.
Yeah.
So before we go on, all mics are muted. So I would like to inform you that in case you need to speak, just kindly use the hand button, raise your hand, and you'll be allowed to be you'll be unmuted, and then you'll be allowed to speak. And you can always use the chat button to also send messages, to ask questions or to give any feedback, and then you can always be. They're asking what Mautic is all about. Mautic is a fully featured open source marketing automation platform which automates and measure marketing efforts, integrating and personalizing digital experiences. So basically, if you need to use Mautic, this is how I'm using Mautic.
Okay, one sec.
So can you still hear me, please?
I'm just gonna. We're getting some feedback from somewhere. Okay, try again.
Okay, now can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, great. So as I was saying, Mautic is an open source email marketing marketing automation software that you can be able to use to capture your leads and to interact with your whoever you want to reach out to as a business or for an individual. So you might be looking at how can you use Mautic. So one is for website tracking, and another way you could use it is to create landing pages. You can also use it to create web form, progressive filing. You need to segment your audiences. You need to do A/B testing. It also includes dashboard analytics, where you can be able to view reports and also to know how well your campaign or how well your email is functioning. So here is a basic example of how you can be able to use Mautic. So let's look at this scenario as a case study. So you want to acquire new customers. So customer gets to know about you online and then click through to a particular resources. That customer go on to give you email address to receive maybe your PDF downloads, to download the PDF knowing more about a particular topic. Then the customer go ahead to identify this person with the activities this person has done performed on your website. So it could be somebody visiting through your website, and then after going through several pages, the person go on to now request to download a particular resources. After the person is then, and by giving you the email address. So with the email address, you can be able to attach all the activities that person has carried on your website, and then be able to now send the person an email with a coupon. When the person opens the email and then click through those pages, you can then be able to proceed further. But in case this person did not open the email and click through the link, you can also automate it in a way that after 1 week, if the email is not opened and the link is not clicked, you can resend that same email to this person. From there, you can then go on to include this person by adding your product into cart, and then coupon reminder is also displayed to this person. By then, you can be able to capture this lead. So another way we could also use Mautic for retention is by when customers provide their updates, product preferences, you get to understand what each customer's needs and what they want to get more information about. So you don't just send same message to all customers. So all messages that you are sending out, either through email or any other means, SMS, is totally personalized to that particular customer. And that customer can then update, once it's updated their preferences. Next, please. So the customer receives information that is personalized to him with offers. And whenever the customer opens the communication, you can then click through to view the offer. And if not click, you can recycle it again, maybe after a certain number of period. Then once the customer click through, and then the customer go ahead to add your product to cart or do whatever you recommend the customers to do, maybe to fill a form to attend an event, depending on what your end goal is. And then the customer go on to convert for you. Next one, please. So let's talk about how you can merge online and offline together when using Mautic. So customer finds you online and they click through a particular resources. Customer at the early stage, on the customer side, requesting for a brochure with address details. So getting the address details, you can match those identity with what activity that the customer performed on your website. And with that information, you can then send a trigger to, this is an example of a post office using a third-party plugin integrated with the post company API, where you can be able to, the customer can then receive the printed brochure with customized offer that is related to the interest of that customer using the activities the customer used while visiting your website. A customer that can then return to the site and then book using the offer code that they received in mail, along with the physical book, that printed brochure that they received. When the coupon code is in association with their own booking. So next slide. All right, so you might be wondering, how can you contribute to Mautic? So I'll be sharing with us some few ways by which you can contribute to Mautic. Mautic is an open source, and it depends on people like me and you to be able to contribute and be able to also get Mautic out, and then others also benefit using Mautic. So you can use this link to get more information, while I also share more information about how you can contribute to Mautic. Next. So there are different communities you might want to involve in. We have the community team that tends to be behind planning meetups, events, and just like we have now, we have the education team trying to give as much resources, simplifying the use of Mautic. Alcua, which is the company behind Mautic, is the one handling the legal and finance team. We have the marketing team, which I'm part of as an assistant, and then we have the product team. We are actually building the product, the Mautic product itself. So next one, please. So we implore you to join the Lagos community. You might have joined this webinar without being on our Meetup page. So please join our Meetup page. Just go to meetup.com, or you can search for Mautic Meetup Lagos. Please join us. So you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Last month we had Ruth coming to talk to us about Mautic and what it is. You might want to get more information. I've only tried to do a summary of that video. You can search for our YouTube channel on YouTube. Just look for Mautic Meetup Lagos, and you can watch the last Meetup recordings. Also, this particular Meetup recording is also going to be uploaded to YouTube. Immediately it is available to share, so you can always check back to see. So how do you support and communicate? You can visit the community homepage, or you can go to the forum, or you can visit the Slack channel to always ask for support and also get updates on recent things that's happening in Mautic. Next one, please. All right, in case you need resources, you can always check the Mautic documentation, which is available at doc.mautic.org, or you can also view, if you want to write plugins, you can use the developers documentation to read about Mautic. So you can also look out for Mautic Cast, which is a bi-monthly podcast that talks about Mautic and what is happening around Mautic. So you might also want to get interested in listening to that too. So follow Mautic online. So you can follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Look out for Mautic community and you can join. Next one. So in case you want to give us feedback or you need to ask more information about Mautic, you can reach the Lagos team. So for now, we are comprising of 2. We look more people joining us as volunteers to be able to plan more for Mautic Lagos. So you can reach out to me or Victor. Victor is on this call, so you can always reach out to the 2 of us. Next. All right, so this is the monthly meetup happening every month. So our next one is happening next month, June 27th, same time. Please do well to join us and do well to invite others that might be interested in attending this event. Okay, so briefly the agenda for today, we've talked about what Mautic is. So next we'll be moving on to Anton and installing Mautic, and who will be doing this for us is Dennis Ameling, who is the assistant product team lead for Mautic. And I'm so glad he's joining us within a very short period of time. Thank you for accepting this, Dennis. You are muted. Kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. Glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, Toby.
Thanks so much, Dennis, for accepting.
So do you want me to go ahead and walk through the installation?
Yes.
All right. Can I share my screen? I think I can.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen now.
Yeah. And then share. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, I'll happily walk you through installing and configuring Mautic, but before I do, I'll give a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Dennis Ameling. As Toby already mentioned, I'm product team assistant lead at Mautic. Basically what that means is that I coordinate the releases. So if there's a new version with new features, etc., I coordinate it together with Norman, who is the product team lead. Currently, we're in the process of releasing Mautic 3, which is the new major version. It's the first major version since 2016, so it's quite an exciting time currently. I'm preparing the migration process for that so that everyone can smoothly migrate to the new version, I hope. And personally, I'm also very interested in improving the developer experience and the maintainability of the project, because there's more and more people joining the project Mautic. So it also becomes harder to efficiently manage all the feature requests coming in, the bug fixes. There's a lot of things happening. So that's what I'm trying to assist with as well. So that's a very brief overview of me. I won't go into very much detail as for the roadmap, but just so you have a quick idea of where we're headed. In June, we're planning to release Mautic 3, which is a new major version. As soon as we release, there will be a blog post and other communication methods where, of course, we'll tell you more about it, everything it does. And here you have a brief overview of what we're planning to release in the coming months. More details will be shared soon, but just so you know that we're very active at the moment. And I just want you to know that if you have any feature requests or ideas, feel free to share them with us. You can go to the forum, and over there we have a section, I think it's called Feature Suggestions and Ideas. And there you can post all your ideas. We're happy to discuss them with you. And if you're able to develop them as well, that would be even more fantastic. But it's already great to have a discussion with everyone. Apart from that, we have a dedicated product team channel on Slack. Feel free to join it if you are interested in everything product related for Mautic. And if you have any technical background or experience, we are always looking for volunteers to help us fix bugs, tries the issues, and test new pull requests. If you're not technical, that's also not a problem. We're also looking for user testers. If you want to know more about that, feel free to leave a message in the chat afterwards, and we can guide you to the right channels. So let's get going and let's install Mautic. Now, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to drop them in the chat. I might not see them immediately, but otherwise I can answer them right after this presentation. So if we look at what Mautic needs to install, it's basically a web application which is coded in PHP. Now, if you're familiar with content management systems like WordPress or Joomla, for example, you will notice that the installation process for Mautic is quite similar. The only things you need really is a web server which supports PHP, that's a programming language, and which has a database, MySQL to be specific. You can read all of the requirements on mautic.org. This is very briefly what you will need. And there's also a quick setup guide, which will walk you step by step through the installation process. Today, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just briefly going to walk you through it without going into too much technical detail. So yeah, to get started, we have a download page. Mautic.org says download, and this is where you get started. So if you want to download Mautic and start playing with it, this is your starting point. Over here we have a quick form which you can fill out. I'll just enter my information. I think this should be enough. I might need to fill in all the details. I'll just put something here. Download. And here you will see that the file is being downloaded. This is quite similar to, for example, what WordPress is doing. If you want to download that, it's the same way. You also have to download a zip file which contains all the application files. Now, in terms of a web server, like I said, you can basically use any web server that supports PHP and a MySQL database. To keep things simple for this presentation, I took a server which has Plesk on it. It's a control panel. There's a bunch of control panels out there. There's Plesk, Direct Admin, cPanel. There's a lot of different things you can use. But just what it comes down to is that it will need to allow you to create a database, for example, and to configure some PHP settings. Now, to get started, there's several ways to get the files that I just downloaded onto the server. So I have a domain, which is called mautic.dennisameling.com, just for demonstration purposes. So if I go to the domain right now, you see that it's empty. That's perfect because it will allow us to upload the Mautic files over there. So what I'm going to do here, there's two options. I can either upload the file with FTP. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but in this case, Plesk also has a file manager, which allows you to very easily upload a zip file. So I downloaded it here and I can just drag and drop it. And there we go. Now the file is on the server. Plesk also has the feature to extract the zip file, which I'm going to do right now. This might take a few seconds to maybe 2 minutes, depending on your server configuration. All right, so here we go. There's a few folders you see here. There's some PHP files, so it looks like we're ready to go. If I check out the URL again, I refresh it. Now what is currently happening is the Mautic installation files are being prepared. This might take a few minutes depending on your system configuration. We're working on making this process faster, but this is only in the beginning. So not that you think, oh, this is such a slow system. It's just preparing a lot of data for you. And as soon as we've set up everything, it will be a lot faster. So normally on this server, it takes around 1 to 2 minutes. Yeah, in this example, I'm using Plesk, but I'm really not promoting any specific control panel here. There's a lot of web hosts you can use. Just make sure that it's very easy for you to upload files there and to create a database. So talking about the database, what I can, while Mautic is preparing in the background, Plesk has this feature where you can easily create databases. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and add a database. I'll call it Mautic Demo. I'll call user Mautic Demo user. And it will create a password for me. Normally this is all you need to do. You just need to set up a database and Mautic will take care of the rest. As soon as you make a note of the database name, the database user, and the database password. So we're almost done here. This process really differs a lot per server at the moment. I've seen installations where it only took 20 seconds. Here we go. I've seen installations where it took 4 minutes. So like I said, we're working on making this faster. So what we see here is that we're ready to install. The environment is ready for Mautic. In some cases, you will see recommendations. In my case, it's about the time zone. Now, if there's a recommendation, you're not obliged to do something with it. If there's a warning which will prevent you from installing Mautic, the system will also tell you. But that's not the case here, so I can just move on in the installation process. So here what you see is that we need to enter all our database information, which Mautic will use to store all your data. So the data about your contacts, about your campaigns, it will all be stored into the database. So what I'm going to do is I'll take the information I just was creating. I have the database name, I have the database user, and I have the database password. Now here you see an option which is called backup existing tables. If you use a database that previously contained information, Mautic will back it up for you. However, I recommend starting with the first database, just so you're sure everything, you're starting on a clean database. So I'm just going to select no here. We're good to go now because everything you see here, which has the star, those fields are mandatory. The password I need because I just created it as well. So what Mautic is doing now is it's preparing the database for you. So we have a certain database structure which will allow you to create contacts, to create campaigns, to do everything you need to do in Mautic. And the next step is to create an actual user, which you can log into in Mautic. So now I'm just going to create one which is called demo. Let's give it a password. And I'll enter my information. Now, in terms of email, there's a few different options you can use. The thing with email is, I don't know if anyone is familiar with tools like MailChimp, for example, that you can use to send a lot of emails to a lot of different people at the same time. There's a lot of different email providers you can choose from. The easiest one is if you use PHP Mail, because it will use your web server as the email server. If you have any issues with being marked as spam, for example, I would always recommend to use an external email provider. There's a lot of them out there. You can check it out yourself. Just take your time and find out whichever works best for you. For now, to keep things simple, I'll just leave it at PHP email. Email handling is a rather advanced feature. In the beginning, you can normally leave it at send immediately, but if you have a very large installation with maybe tens of thousands of contacts, it might be better to work with a queue, but everything about this is documented in our documentation. So if you want to know more about it, feel free to look it up. But this should get us going with the default settings. So I'm not going to change anything here. So I'm going to log in with the account I just created. And that's it. I just installed Mautic and I configured it. The database has been set up. I have a user account that I can work with. And that's all I needed to do, basically. I can get started already. I saw that there was something in the chat. Oh, someone is asking, can I get a recording of this event? Yes, the event is being recorded, so you can find it afterwards, no problem. So that's it for the installation of Mautic itself. We're almost done. Oh, oops, I clicked the wrong button. Let me share my screen again. There we go. I'm trying to go to the step. So we've completed step 1. We've downloaded and installed Mautic. We've set everything up. So we're pretty much ready to go. The last thing that's quite crucial here is cron jobs. Now, what are cron jobs? Basically, what happens is that if you make very large email campaigns with thousands or tens of thousands of contacts, it will take quite a lot of time to send them all out. The thing is, if you would create them in the interface, so I would go to campaigns, for example, set everything up, and then decide to send them, it would be a quite bad user experience. But maybe if it takes 10 to 15 minutes to send out all the emails, you will not be able to do anything else in the application. So that's why we have cron jobs, which basically allow us to do things for us at regular intervals in the background. So we don't have to do anything for that anymore. So what you see here is, for example, updating campaigns and sending email. We can configure Mautic to, for example, send emails every 5 to 10 minutes. So if I schedule an email campaign, every 5 to 10 minutes, the system will check for you if there's any campaigns that are scheduled for sending out. So you're not obliged to create a campaign and send it out right away. You're completely free to schedule it for whatever moment you're looking for. So if I create the campaign now, I could choose to send it out maybe next week or even next month, whenever you think is best. And that's what we use the cron jobs for. Now, this is a bit more complex, but here you see these cron jobs can be created through cPanel or added through command line. So but going back to Plesk is basically very similar to cPanel. I go back to my domain here. And then on the right-hand side, I have scheduled tasks. And that is basically what we will need to do in order to set up the cron jobs. Now, if you need some more help with this, normally there's a lot of documentation from either your web host or the control panel itself. So cPanel, Plesk, it doesn't really matter. But here, in order to set it up, just 1 second. I'm going to move this tab because that's easier. So here, when we see the cron jobs, we see updating contact segments. That is one example. So let's say if we want the segments to be updated every, let's say, every hour at the 10th minute, we can go to run a PHP script, because that's what it is in the end. We go to Mautic, app, and then console. That's what you see here as well, right? So you see path to Mautic /app/console. That is everything. That is the crucial part here. So the console is what allows you to set up cron jobs, do a lot of command line tasks. It's quite powerful. So now that I've created the console, I need to set up arguments, because the console will need to know what to do. And in this case, we want to update segments. So I'm going to go ahead and add the argument Mautic segments update. I need to select the PHP version. For Mautic 2, we support PHP 5.6 until 7.3. So I'm just going to go for the middle way and select 7.1 here. Just keep an eye on Mautic's requirements on the requirements page. Here you see you need at least 5.6.19 up to 7.3. But please note that starting from Mautic 3, the minimum version will be 7.2. So just make sure to keep an eye on the requirements. But for now, we should be good to go. So what I've done is I've said I want the segment update script to run every hour at the 10th minute. So it's going to run at 10 past 1, 10 past 2, 10 past 3, etc. Just to be sure, I can select Run Now. And here in the bottom right corner, you see that the task successfully completed. So that's good. So I'm going to click OK. And now I've basically set up a cron job. Mautic will check every hour at the 10th minute if there's segments that need to be updated. So we don't have to do anything for that anymore. It's quite convenient, right? So I'm just gonna go ahead and add these two as well, just so we have everything in place. I'm gonna do the same, run a PHP script, go to my Mautic installation folder, app, console, and then add the script. So again, I'll do 7.1. Oh, excuse me, we're gonna do hourly at the 15th minute. Gonna do a quick check. Yep, that looks good. We're almost there, we're almost ready to use Mautic. It's quite exciting. So the last one, the last cron job I'm gonna add right now. Don't worry if it goes too fast right now. This meeting is recorded, so you can always look back at it later on. So this one hourly as well. Quick check. Also looks good. And that's it. There's more things mentioned here. They're not a hard requirement. I'll just briefly explain what they do and how they work. But you're not obliged to use it. So the IP lookup. Basically every visitor on your website, for example, has a unique IP address. And that will allow you to identify users on your website based on their unique IP address. And there's a service which is called the IP Lookup database, excuse me, which allows you to download a file which has a mapping between the IP address and the location of the user. So if an IP address starts with certain numbers, that service will tell you whether the user comes from Africa, from Europe, from America, and even if it's specific enough from the country and the city where the user lives in. So it's quite a powerful tool. You're not obliged to use it, but I'll just quickly show you how it works. So here it's mentioned, click on the cogwheel in the upper right hand of Mautic to view the admin menu, then click configuration. On the system settings tab, find the IP lookup service option. So I'm going to do that. Over here you can find the configuration. Now there's a lot of things you can configure in Mautic, so don't be overwhelmed in the beginning. In the documentation you can find more information about all the different configuration options. And here I'm just going to show you the example of the IP lookup service. So there's different services you can choose from. By default we use MaxMind. So if I click fetch IP lookup data store, it will say that it has filled now. This is because recently MaxMind did a change to their system, so you need to sign up for their service, which is for free, but you just need to sign up. And then you can add your authentication details over here, and then you'll be able to look to use the IP lookup data store. Personally, I find it quite a powerful tool because it will tell you a lot about where your users are and what they do. But again, you're not obliged to use it. Then the last step that's mentioned here is the tracking pixel. Now, if you want to start tracking users on your website, you will need to install the tracking pixel. It's basically a small snippet of code which you can add to your website. You can add it directly in the HTML, and there's also some tools you can use to make this process a bit easier. but this is an example of the script you would need to add to your website. Now, if you want to retrieve the exact code snippet that you need to include in your website, you go to configuration, then tracking settings, and it will show you the exact script that you will need to add to your website. Because here you see it includes my domain name. So the script is prepared for you and your specific installation of Mautic. That's it for the setup. I've installed Mautic. I've configured the basic things. Now again, this might be a bit overwhelming in the beginning. It might be a bit fast. But again, this meeting is recorded, so you can look it back at whatever moment is convenient for you. Also, we have a lot of documentation available, which is at docs.mautic.org. I think, can we find it somewhere over here? User documentation. So just whenever it's convenient for you, you can check out everything you want to know about campaigns, contacts. Pretty much everything is here. And if you have any feedback on the documents, if anything is unclear, you can always let us know, of course. So that's it for a basic introduction to installing Mautic. And now you're basically ready to get started. So if you have any questions about setting up or installing, again, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm looking at Toby now because Toby has a VPS, a virtual private server that we could set up as well. It's a bit more technical, so I'm not sure if it's really appropriate to do it here now, because already what we just discussed might be a bit technical for some. Toby, what I could do is also create a different video together with the education team about setting up Mautic on VPSs, so virtual private servers. So anyone who wants to do it can read it, can see it step by step how it works. How does it sound?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, so again, if anyone has questions, just feel free to put them in the chat. And otherwise, I think it's time to hand back over to Toby.
Thanks so much, Dennis. That was really great, and they really simplified the way to install Mautic, and very basic. Thanks so much. Okay, so if you have questions, please you can ask. So I have a question about cron jobs. So we set up about 3 different cron jobs while you were trying to demonstrate, and then I can see you were putting 15 minutes, 10 minutes after an hour. Is there basically any rule for how long you should be able to, the number of minutes or the differences between those durations, or how you can just put any number you want?
Very good question. I'm gonna explain it to you in a bit more detail. There is a page in the documentation that tells you a bit more about it. So I'll share my screen. So in the documentation, we have a section called Setup and then cron jobs. This goes into a bit more detail. So what I just did in the example is I just check once every hour, but that might not be enough. So because if you schedule email campaigns, for example, it normally is best to do it as often as possible, but that also depends on the server you're using. Because if you have a server which is quite minimal in terms of specifications, it might not give the optimal experience if you run the cron jobs every minute, for example. There's one thing that we really recommend, and it's also mentioned here, is that you do not run cron jobs at the same time, but rather after each other. So here you see an example that on every full hour we run the segment update, then the 5th minute of the hour we run the campaign update, and then on the 10th minute of the hour we trigger the actual campaigns so that they are sent out. Then at the 15th minute we start with the segments again, campaigns, and then trigger the campaigns. So this is a recommended approach because then you will have a regular interval at which your campaigns are triggered. I'll make sure to update the basic setup guide because I didn't explicitly mention this. And I think it's a question that comes up quite often. So we can definitely improve the documentation there. But the general rule of thumb is run it as often as you can and do not run cron jobs at the same time. So that's what I would recommend in terms of cron jobs. Now, I also see that there's a question about AWS, Amazon. How does it work with Mautic? On the large cloud providers, you can look for Mautic, and there will be very often there's images that you can use. So I know that, for example, Bitnami, they've created a Mautic image, which will basically do the whole installation for you, which is quite convenient. So if you go to AWS and search for Mautic, there might be something to find there. There's nothing we officially support there, but I know that the community has created quite some things you can use over there. In case you're not able to find a default image from Mautic, you're always free to set up a virtual machine on Amazon, on AWS, I mean, on Microsoft Azure, on Google Cloud Platform, it doesn't matter. And then configure everything yourself. So like I mentioned in the beginning, the only things you will need is PHP, the Apache web server, and a MySQL database, and then you should be good to go. But it's a bit more, you need a bit more technical knowledge to set it up. So it might be the easiest to either work with Control Panel or find an image on AWS, Azure, or the Google Cloud Platform.
Just to add to that, the education team are actually working on creating tutorials for all the common environments. So we're looking to set one up for DigitalOcean, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, so that there's at least a basic explanation of how to get started with Mautic in those different environments. So if anyone has experience in any of those and you'd like to help us write a tutorial, that would be really appreciated. But if you haven't got experience, you want to learn, that information's coming soon.
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense because then the whole installation process can also be done for you. And the only thing you will need to do is you will get the URL that you can log into, and then you're basically ready to go. It will very often create a default user for you, which you can log in with, and then it's even easier. So if you don't have your own web server and there's such image available, it might be very convenient and easy to use it. So yeah, like Ruth already mentioned, it would be great if we can have some community support there to make that process even easier. So if there's any other questions, just feel free to mention them in the chat once again. So I'll just wait for a minute or so, and otherwise I'd say let's go back to Toby.
In the absence of no question, let's quickly do a breakout session and let's interact within ourselves, just a way of networking, and then we can come back together after 10 minutes. Then we can then wrap up and then answer more questions. There are a couple of updates that we would like in Mautic, so please stay behind to hear more about this update. So right now we'll be going into breakout sessions. So just a moment, you will be added to one of the sessions. So shortly, just a moment.
Someone, and I even found out someone, a developer somewhere, had extended Mautic to the ability of being a SaaS application that could be used. Though I've not looked at it like properly to ascertain how far that has gone. But definitely I saw that post somewhere. So that's the beauty of Mautic being open source and a widely available tool for each one of us to use. Just as Sanville also mentioned, trial and error. He keeps on using Mautic, learning every day. So we could do that. The technical team is always available to help out. If you get stuck in any way, you could ask your questions, you could send emails, and we'll be glad to hear from you as the Mautic community grows. So thank you all for being here today. We are grateful to have you. Thank you. So can we go back to Toby?
All right, thanks so much, everybody. Thank you. Please don't forget to join our community on Meetup. We would love you to have you there so that we can get updates about coming meetups and then about any updates happening within the community. This video is going to be available on YouTube. You can check the Mautic Lagos YouTube channel and you can always have access to it. So it won't be there immediately. So once the video is processed, it will be uploaded to YouTube channel. Also, join us on Mautic, join us on our Meetup channel, Meetup events, so that you can be able to get to know about more information from us. So if you need to reach any of us, so my handle is at TOBSOWO, Topsowo. You can also reach Victor at IHEDIOHAVICTOR, Ihedioha Victor. Thanks so much, everybody. I can see chat messages. Okay. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. All right. See you next month. We really appreciate your time. And we are glad that you joined us. So join us again next month, June 27, 11 a.m. same time. We will love to have you around with another interesting topic. Bye.